Thank you for joining us here on Doctor's Nutrition. This is part of our series on things that you need to be testing specifically for your heart health. We've got a lot of other studies in this series, but today we're going to be talking about some nutrients that are actually something that's very important.
Right. There's nutrient deficiencies affect everything. So they have a big effect on health in general. But we're going to talk about a few that we always check in our panels and how it relates to the cardiovascular system. Now, vitamin D, many studies out there show a vitamin D deficiency can increase blood pressure. They've linked it to blood pressure often. And then when you have high blood pressure for a long period of time, you can have enlargement of the heart. You can have all kind of other heart abnormalities due to the pressure being high.
Yeah, and when we look at vitamin D, we look at the range. And it's usually like 30 nanograms to 100 nanograms per deciliter is going to be the normal. Okay, if you're in range, if you're at 31, they're going to say, oh, you're fine. No, really, you're really not. You really need to be up around 50 to about 85. That's kind of the Goldilocks region, if you will. And because now it's not only about blood pressure and stuff like that too, but we know that there's about 2,300 of our genes are directly controlled by vitamin D.
Yeah, and vitamin D actually is a hormone.
It really is.
They call it vitamin, and it's called vitamin D. But it is one of your hormones, and it is so important in your genes. And if it makes certain genes trigger because you have a lack of it, it can cause problems, including the cardiovascular system.
Exactly.
So vitamin D is a very easy nutrient to actually keep in range. We recommend checking it twice a year when it's summer and then winter, because you're going to get a little bit of a dip in the winter because you're not outside in the sunlight. Now, we always recommend people go out in the sunlight as well, but you always want to look at your vitamin D. Now, when you supplement vitamin D, you always want to supplement K2 with it.
Always.
And K2 is absolutely necessary for cardiovascular health. They've actually shown K2 can help keep plaque out of the arteries.
Well, it helps keep the calcium metabolism correct, which is going to help with that plaque in the arteries. So,
right. It's going to help put calcium into the bone instead of putting it into the plaque.
Yeah.
And so that's a win-win in two areas. So that's what we don't check K2. There's not a great test out for it at this point, but we do check vitamin D. And when we supplement vitamin D, we always supplement K2 with it. Our ADK2 is probably one of our biggest sellers, and it has vitamin A that activates vitamin D, and then K2 that makes you utilize it correctly. So D is very, very important for cardiovascular health.
No doubt about it. And it's also good for a lot of other things like bone health and et cetera. But yeah, the heart
and
specifically.
Mood and depression and energy and name it. I mean, it's good for all kind of things.
The list goes on. Right. Yeah, it's a long list of stuff.
And the next thing is potassium.
Yeah, and we see an awful lot of people who come in and really are low in potassium. And it needs to be in a kind of an optimal range. It needs to be above 4.
We like it between 4 and 4.5. You don't want it too high either.
Kind of a narrow range.
Too high is not good as well. But potassium plays a huge role in blood pressure control. It makes a big difference in muscles.
Yes.
And muscle cramping. And what is your heart? It's the most demanding muscle in your body. So if your potassium is not adequate, you definitely have problems with the heart muscle itself. In the past, personally knew someone that was told they needed a heart transplant. They were already on the list. I mean, they went to as far as get tested. All the stuff happened to get on the transplant list for a heart. Well, in the long run, they happened to see one doctor and said, I think it's your potassium. And they're like, what? Gave her potassium. All problems went away. Now, that is not to say go run out and take a bunch of potassium if you have a heart problem, because potassium too much causes problems too. So that is one you absolutely have to check, and you have to recheck to see if you're at the optimal level later.
Yeah, that's
but it is that important to the heart that it could actually make such severe problems that they could actually think you needed a heart transplant.
That's pretty scary.
It is.
Something as simple as potassium.
It's something as simple and easy as potassium. We don't recommend, everybody says, oh, for potassium, we're just going to eat a banana. Bananas just have such high sugar levels, and we see it increase sugar so much. We recommend avocado is a better solution.
Much better.
Or unsweetened coconut water. Not milk, water. The coconut water. It is really high in potassium naturally. So, and have the levels checked, because you don't want to just take a bunch and not know where you are. So potassium is just very, very important.
Something on that banana and the avocado thing. With the banana, they say, well, you're going to get 99 milligrams. It's in that range. Average avocado is about 400.
Yeah, it's much higher.
And how much sugar? Virtually none.
Yep. So
Just some
avocado
good
is a very
fats.
good food for the cardiovascular health.
It's good for anything.
Yep. Now, next, we've talked about it on one of the previous videos, B12 and folate. So important, because if it's low, you're going to have high homocysteine. And if you don't know what homocysteine is, go back and look at the video that we did on homocysteine.
Because we did one.
So important for controlling that homocysteine and helping cardiovascular system.
And also nerve health.
Right.
I mean, we'll throw that in just because, but think about it. The nervous system in the heart, because it has its own little deal going on there.
Has to have it.
It's got the big nervous system, the brain and all that, and B12 and folate are great for that. But the heart itself has its own little, nervous system. And when we look at that B12 and folate actually is very specific to helping that heart in that respect. So something you really want to pay attention to.
Well, the nervous system also has to tell the heart how to function. So everything's controlled by the nervous system. B12 and folate is two of the biggest things to help the nervous system.
And it's one of the biggest things that we see that people
We see a lot of
deficient
deficiency in it. We used to not see as much of the folate deficiency, but people are not eating real vegetables anymore. So we're seeing a really big deficiency. Now, all your vegetarians out there, or if you don't, you should know, you have to supplement B12 if you're a vegetarian.
Yes.
You cannot get it from a vegetable source. So B12 is that important. Every book written on vegetarianism says that you must supplement it, because without B12, it will affect your health, life, and cardiovascular system. That's why we always check that on our cardiac panel as well, because it's that important to know.
Now, another biggie is magnesium.
Yes.
I think one of the things is probably a little bit easier to get potassium in your diet than it is magnesium.
Right.
Because the soil's been depleted of magnesium. That's one of the things. It's known in agriculture that's one of the big issues with modern agriculture, or monoculture we call it, that it depletes the magnesium. The soil's depleted. So it's going to be really hard. Even if you eat the right stuff or think you are, you still may not be getting enough magnesium.
Right. And magnesium, the range on the labs are a sample of the population.
Yes.
Okay. So when you look at where your magnesium falls in a regular lab, it's a sample of the population. Well, they know that probably 85 to 90% of the population is deficient in magnesium, but they don't take that into account. They still use the values from all people to come up with the range. So to me, the range is skewed to where it should be much higher. There's another test you can do on magnesium. Now, it's not done, and we don't even do it. It's hard to do. It's called a magnesium loading test, where you actually take so much magnesium, and then you actually collect urine 24 hours later, and then you measure the magnesium in the urine to see how much you're excreting. If you don't excrete any of the magnesium that has been IV'd into you, then that means you're deficient, because you're using it all. That means your body needs it. It doesn't excrete it. So that's kind of how the magnesium loading test works. Well, I saw a study that 87% of all postmenopausal women that they did the magnesium loading test on was deficient in magnesium. Real high deficiency.
87% is pretty high.
It is. I pretty much on that one tell people you probably should supplement magnesium. If you get diarrhea, you're getting too much. That's the body will dump it if it gets too much. If you have a severe kidney problem, do not. That is the one group of people that cannot get rid of magnesium properly. But if you don't have a kidney issue, it's pretty safe to take magnesium. So magnesium is deficient in most people. It's deficient in our soil. So even foods that are supposed to be high in magnesium usually are not.
May not be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully you got something out of this little series here about some of these nutrients. Look at some of the other series. She mentioned the one on homocysteine. Be sure and go back and watch all those little videos on these things, because it'll kind of give you an idea of why you really need to be paying attention to certain testing, specifically for the heart.
Right. Because you want to, like I said, you want to look at everything. You don't want to just look at one area, because you'll miss other things.
Right.
I mean, on that magnesium deficiency, I've seen extreme hypertension in the past be because somebody has a magnesium deficiency.
Oh, absolutely.
And it plays a huge role in blood pressure.
Right.
It plays a huge role in way muscles work. Again, heart's a muscle.
Yeah.
So You want the whole picture. You want to see what to do for overall health. And like I've said in the past, the body is not parts, it is a whole. So you need to look at the whole thing.
Stick around for the rest of the series. There's other little series that you can get a lot of really good information out of. And we'll see you on the next time.